It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
You know what's great about your investment account with the big guys? It's actually a time machine. Log in and zoom. Welcome back to 1999. It's time for an upgrade. At Public.com, you can invest in almost everything. Stocks, bonds, options, and more. You could even put your cash to work at an industry-leading 4.1% APY. Leave your clunky, outdated platform behind at Public.com. Go to Public.com and fund your account in 5 minutes or less. Paid for by Public Investing Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Full disclosures at Public.com/disclosures.
You don't know me yet, but I bet we have something in common. We all wish we were better functioning humans. Maybe figure out how to sleep better, have more meaningful relationships, cook more. That's Search for Practical Knowledge. It's my job at the Washington Post. I host a podcast called Try This. Every episode is like an audio class, and we learn together. I'm Christina Quinn. Now you know me. Check out Try This wherever you're listening.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI AM 640, Mo Kelly here, and we are continuing our live coverage of the events going on not only in downtown, but also the protests which have emerged in Orange County. And we're all being inundated with all sorts of imagery. We've seen what they call B-roll footage from the previous days. But let me just be here to remind everyone, me included, we don't know where all of this is headed. We don't know what tonight will bring. We don't know exactly how all this is going to play out. And I think we have a collective responsibility to not get ahead of where we are and what this is. I know working in media, it's not uncommon for news outlets and personalities to want to, sometimes there's a race to characterize events because it suits a particular feeling about them. Not so fast. Not so fast. We're going to take our time with this tonight. Right now, we see some incidents which are happening in Santa Ana. I'm looking at KCAL. I'm watching what is happening in downtown Los Angeles. It seems relatively quiet. In other words, I see LAPD. They are moving forward, moving people out from a specific area. It's not clear how wide a perimeter that LAPD is trying to set, but you can see LAPD in riot gear. They are moving people down the street. And from what I can see, for the most part, people are being orderly in the way that they are leaving downtown. Of course, when the sun goes down, that may change. And I think a lot of us are concerned about what happens when the sun goes down, because let's be honest, there are always people who are going to show up for the latest protest because they have an issue with police or they want to create mayhem. They want to do something. In other words, not everyone is afraid of going to jail. Not everyone is afraid of instigating an incident with law enforcement. And they will be out tonight. And hopefully there will not be a lot of them, or there will not be enough to shift the tide of what's going on right now. But we're going to sit here and we're going to give you the best information that we can. We are going to try to give you as much analysis as possible. I can tell you up front, I have no dog in this fight whatsoever. I want calm. I want peace. I want everyone to remain safe. And from a protest standpoint, I actually do want everyone to be heard because this is still America. But I do not want any type of violence. I am hoping that we can get through this evening and into the night with no major incidents, with no violence, with no looting, with no attacks on police officers. And I just texted some of my law enforcement friends, just reminding them, be safe out there, because they have what I would say is a mostly impossible job, because there are people going to try to provoke them tonight, no matter what, and they have to remain calm. And sometimes it's grossly unfair what is said to them, thrown at them, and they can't react in a way that I think regular people would want to react. But unfortunately, that is part of the job, and we'll see. What we saw over the weekend, a perfect example. Friday, there was something that was going on. Oh, let me back up. Got to give great credit to LA Police Department and the LA County Sheriff's Department for maintaining collective control over downtown area this weekend and some of the outer lying areas. I know I had some friends who were driving down the freeway as people started walking on to block the freeway, and the coordinated response from CHP and LAPD to get drivers off the freeway to make sure that it was safe and people were not run down. I'm not trying to be funny, I'm trying to be very serious, was nothing short of amazing in that regard. So it does show a level of preparedness that our law enforcement apparatus has for times just like these. And the way it was handled over the course of the weekend, you remember Friday, I know that this show was the first show to really lean into what was happening downtown. And we were telling you what was happening. And we were speaking with Michael Monks. And at that point, it seemed like there really wasn't a lot going on. But you were still kept in the know. So you realized, all right, this is not a thing yet. Not as of Friday night around 10 o'clock. And then over the course of Saturday, when there were other ICE raids and arrests made in Paramount, it started ratcheting up again. And we wanted to make sure it was something different. You know, Saturday had a different feeling than Friday. Saturday had a very different energy than Friday. And we saw what happened to the Waymos. We saw other acts of violence. And let me also be clear. People have been rushing to depict this as either a full-blown riot or they want to call it a peaceful protest. And I think we need to make sure that there has to be nuance in our characterization of what is actually going on. And this is the only way I really can explain it. And I love analogies, and I'll probably have 10 more tonight. But that's the best way I can communicate certain ideas. And I always say that not all rain is a thunderstorm, and not all thunderstorms are hurricanes. But if you rush to call something a hurricane before it actually is, you don't leave yourself anywhere to go. And tomorrow, if you understand the analogy, there may be a hurricane. That is a possibility. But if there is a hurricane tomorrow, it doesn't mean on Saturday it was also a hurricane. Could have been just rain. And let's not be so quick to characterize this as a full-blown riot or try to misrepresent it as wholly peaceful protests. It's neither. There are varying degrees in between. Yes, there was violence. Yes, there were attacks on officers. Yes, there was some looting. But if we're honest, it was at least in a very focused area. And again, I commend law enforcement for keeping it contained in that particular area. I'm old enough to remember 1992, and they call it the Rodney King verdict, but it didn't have to do with Rodney King. It had to do with officers Lawrence Powell, Stacey Koon, and so forth. But people recognize what I'm talking about when I say Rodney King. That verdict for the civil trial, which led to the riots of 1992, enveloped the whole city. You could see the businesses and the fires being burned down across dozens and dozens of blocks. I, along with my fraternity brothers at the time, I was only 22 or so, we were out there helping in the cleanup effort. I distinctly remember that. You had any number of people killed. There's no legitimate comparison at this point. We all remember in 2020 what that led to. And also around the circumstances surrounding a riot are very, very different. Like, for example, all the schools at LAUSD were open today. That's usually not the case. There was no curfew put in place. For example, there was a soccer match at BMO Stadium over the weekend. There was the BET live experience, which was going on in the convention center. BET experience was downtown. We had the Pride parade going on in West Hollywood. That was only 3 miles, maybe north of downtown. In other words, the city was not dealing with this. It was basically 4 or 5 blocks. No exaggeration. So what I'm saying is tonight may be different. We don't know, but let's not be in a rush to characterize it as something it has not risen to the level of, at least as of yet. And again, I am hoping for nothing but peace. I am hoping that there is no further escalation. We'll have to see as the sun goes down how people and agitators alike will respond in this.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
You know what's great about your investment account with the big guys? It's actually a time machine. Log in and zoom. Welcome back to 1999. It's time for an upgrade. At Public.com, you can invest in almost everything. Stocks, bonds, options, and more. You could even put your cash to work at an industry-leading 4.1% APY. Leave your clunky, outdated platform behind at Public.com. Go to Public.com and fund your account in 5 minutes or less. Paid for by Public Investing Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Full disclosures at Public.com/disclosures.
There's an efficient way to get caught up on a lot of news. It's called The 7 from The Washington Post. It's a newsletter and podcast. Whether you're reading or hit play, you get 7 stories you need to know, and you can consume it all in just a few minutes. The 7 is out every weekday morning by 7 a.m. Eastern. I'm Hannah Jewell. I'm one of the writers, and I host the show. Find The 7 podcast wherever you're listening. The newsletter link is waiting for you in the show notes.
Moment.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI AM 640, Mo Kelly here with you until 10 o'clock as we continue to follow the various protests around Southern California. I say various because not only is it in downtown LA, but also in Santa Ana in Orange County. And by now you probably know, I would say the biggest piece of news with Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said that around 700 Marines, quote, are being deployed to Los Angeles to restore order, close quote. And they're going to be coming from 2nd Battalion, 7th Marine Regiment. It's an infantry unit based in 29 Palms, California. And the Marines are being deployed from Camp Pendleton as well. Now, what their role is, I'm going to tell you that I don't know. Someone else who does not roll, specifically the role and how it will be involved with the management of the situation, is LAPD Chief Jim McDonnell. He said in a statement that the agency has decades of experience managing large-scale public demonstration and can handle the protests. And he also said the arrival of federal military forces in Los Angeles, absent clear coordination, presents a significant logistical and operational challenge for those of us charged with safeguarding this city. That is LAPD Chief Jim McDonnell. And I don't know what conversations are being had between LAPD and the federal government. I don't know whether these Marines are receiving their primary instructions from the Department of Defense, or are they working with local law enforcement? Now, what I do know is they're supposed to be stationed specifically in front of federal offices to protect them and also provide security around them. But I don't know how that intersects with law enforcement. And according to Jim McDonnell, chief of LAPD, he has questions as well. Don't know exactly how that will take shape. We're going to have to watch that together and see how it happens and when it happens. I do notice in some areas, Twala, is this downtown or Santa Ana?
This looks like this is downtown.
If it's KCAL, it's Santa Ana.
Okay, KCAL is Santa Ana.
KCAL, Santa.
Okay, there are some people who are lying in the street, I guess, trying to be objectors and make it more difficult. They're lying in the street just in front of, I don't know which police department that is. I guess maybe it's Santa Ana PD, but they're right in front of officers, just laying down prone. It doesn't seem that they were instructed to get in that position. It seems like that they're laying down there to present themselves as obstacles, and they're cat-a-corner from a federal building where you can see what I assume to be National Guardsmen. It is not an escalation, but it seems to be an act of conscious defiance where, although police are not actively moving forward, I get the sense that people who are protesting are laying down in advance of that. In fact, you can see it on our YouTube right now at Mr. Mo Kelly. You can see exactly to what we're referring as we have the KCAL feed there.
This is in front of the federal building.
Okay.
In Santa Ana.
Okay, so that makes sense. Yeah, so that will be the National Guardsmen in front of the federal building. It says police. There's not an identifying police department. I am making the assumption it's Santa Ana PD. I don't know if there are other agencies folded in. But there is no violence at this moment in either Los Angeles or Santa Ana. We've seen some arrests of individuals. I think during the first segment, there was an arrest of an individual by 4 or 5 members of law enforcement. But at this point, it's still calm. The officers are not in an aggressive position. You can see, at least via KCAL, somewhat relaxed. Almost like they're waiting for the next instruction.
Looks like
something's happening right now. Okay, now they're moving forward. Now they're moving forward in unison. This is in downtown LA. This is specifically in downtown LA. They move forward and then stopped. I don't know if there was any type of contact between a protester and a member of law enforcement, but then it stopped. And now police have then backed off.
So this is similar to what we were reporting on Friday night. It looks as if this is a coordinated effort to start clearing individuals out of the streets in downtown. And this is what Michael Monks was reporting on, that officers are moving, the crowd is moving down. Officers move forward, the crowd moves down.
And it's almost like a staggered, they'll move a little bit, then stop, move a little bit and stop. Mark, I don't know, in your investigation, have you come across any type of official order to disperse in downtown or Santa Ana as of yet?
Not at the moment, no. But I'm scanning everything I possibly can, and I will let you know if something like that comes across. I
can tell you, though, in downtown L.A., police are now directly moving forward. It seems like there was a flashbang which was just set off, and there is a some sort of police vehicle which is right behind that separation line. So police are advancing somewhat casually. I mean, they're not moving at a quick pace. Protesters, for the most part, seem to be cooperating and moving back. And now they stopped again. So they're moving at a deliberate pace, but a staggered pace. They'll take maybe 10 steps and wait for a moment. And then they'll take another 10 steps and wait for a moment. I'm not getting any audio, so I'm not hearing per se whether they are giving instructions as far as dispersing or moving back to a certain perimeter point. That's something we'll try to look at during this next break and get some clarity as far as what commands have been given, what instructions have been given, and whether there is a dispersal order in place, and also whether there might be any curfew handed down for tonight. That's something that I'm looking for, and that to me, that would be indicative of some level of escalation where they feel that they have to send everyone home, directly home now, to keep it from getting worse. But we'll keep following this. We're following what is happening in downtown Los Angeles and in Santa Ana simultaneously. They are still nonviolent protests at this point. There have been a couple of skirmishes, but no escalation as of yet. As the sun goes down, of course, it may get more dangerous, but nothing too much of an escalation to report at this point. But we're continuing to follow it. We'll be with you until 10 o'clock tonight. I'm Mo Kelly as we continue our coverage of the protests in Los Angeles and Orange County. KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI AM 640. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app as we continue our coverage of the live events unfolding in both downtown Los Angeles and also now Santa Ana. And joining us now is, I would say, the man of the hour, Michael Monks. We just heard your promo about you getting tear gassed. Let me first ask you, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I appreciate that very much. Yeah, it was a very quick incident that took place yesterday afternoon. Really the only time that I think those of us in the media were hit by tear gas. I know some of our colleagues were later hit by pepper balls in another incident. First time getting tear gassed, it was not pleasant. Do not recommend, but that's life in Los Angeles, man.
I want to bring in Mark Ronner because he knows a little something about this.
Welcome to the club.
Thanks, Mark.
How did it feel?
It felt like you telling me a very long story.
So remarkably unpleasant then is what I'm gathering. No,
I tease, friend.
The thing about getting tear gassed is that you never build up a tolerance for it. And the 20th time is every bit as unpleasant as the first time.
Oh, you
might find that out.
What I felt about it was, this stuff is, how do you say, effective? Because they wanted everybody out of the street. This particular incident involved the National Guard using tear gas on protesters and those of us in the media who were in the crowd covering this thing so that they could clear the street to make way for about 20 federal vehicles to go into the parking garage. And boy, did it work. Everyone scrambled out of the way, coughing fits. What I'll tell you, Mo, is that protesters in Los Angeles, not just the general people that come down to these things, but the protesters, the people that live for this, no matter what the issue is, they are longing to get into it with the police any chance they get. They know how to act in defense when this stuff happens. They know what tools they need. They know how they're supposed to help each other. And maybe most importantly for their case, they know how to get to the scene of one of these things very fast.
Not that we know what to expect, but what should we be concerned about beyond the sun going down and obviously agitators getting in the mix? Have you seen anything else which has alarmed you?
Well, it feels a bit like right now, this moment, because of course there are a lot of people in downtown Los Angeles right now, despite the fact that the police have told everybody to go home. It's a constant powder keg right now. And all you need is one little spark. I know we're dealing with some stuff in Santa Ana as well now, but here in downtown Los Angeles, which has been the epicenter in Southern California for this type of activity, it's hanging by a thread. I'll tell you, I'm in downtown right now as I left Burbank, our studios, and pulled into downtown first. Traffic was way too easy today on the freeway. So you get the sense that people have maybe stayed home or at least away from downtown. And then when you hit the surface streets, you have to know your way around, because I saw a ton of people, probably 100, walking down Temple Street, and more cars behind them waving Mexican flags, holding up signage coming from that area and headed in the direction of where these protests are. So not only is it still ongoing, but there are more people on their way. So it's a volatile situation, and all it takes is for that spark. And again, these elite protesters, the ones that long for this stuff, they're always down there waiting for the opportunity to cause some ruckus.
I wonder, though, as this night unfolds, and you say people are coming to the scene, is there a perimeter where cars can no longer pass? In other words, how close do you think you can drive up to the protest, or have the police set up a perimeter where they're at least not letting cars get in?
Multiple agencies have shut down various streets. So a lot of the surface streets near the Civic Center area of downtown Los Angeles, that's the name that they give the area where a lot of the civic buildings are. City Hall, the federal building, for example, the county building, those things. And I did just drive near there, but not through there. Surface streets are closed, and so are the freeway exits to them. So if you were on the 101 and wanted to get off at Los Angeles Street, that is blocked. The 110 is blocked, for example. Access to the 110 from downtown was blocked in this area as well. So the CHP is standing there in a line, not just cones blocking it, but they are officers standing in a line blocking access to the freeway ramps that way. So they are trying to limit the vehicular traffic, but the pedestrian traffic is what I saw. I saw, again, about 100 people marching down Temple Street in the direction of this. So I don't know where their cars are, but they got the message they weren't driving any closer, so they got out and carried on foot.
You may not know the answer to this question, but I think people may have this same question, even though they may have. Well, let me back up. Has there been an official order to disperse, as far as you know?
I think we're waiting for that. There's definitely a tactical alert out there, meaning that the police officers need to stay on duty in case things go awry here. Mm-hmm. I mentioned this to you back in Burbank. I'm surprised that we haven't heard at least official chatter that maybe a curfew or something could be implemented for this area. I got to tell you, I hate to editorialize because I like to be an impartial observer of these things, but when we talk about whether this situation is in control, whether the local police have it in control, it's really unclear to me. Mm-hmm. But it seems like it could be. Mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. I think back to yesterday, shortly before getting tear gassed, I'm looking around, I'm thinking, this is a federal building that folks are protesting out of, and that's why there are federal agents on that property, and that is why the National Guard is stationed there, because they have been federalized. It's the president who sent them there. But this protest was large, and it was spilling into Alameda Street, which is city property. At what point could this thing have been stopped early so that it did not escalate? It was clearly an unlawful assembly. People are allowed to protest, but there are protocols. There are permits. And if you have a permit, you have a lot more freedom and leeway with what you're doing, where you're doing it, how much time you can do it. This was an unlawful assembly from the start. Mm-hmm. And I did not see a single Los Angeles police officer on the scene of that protest until they pulled up by the dozens about 2.5 hours later because a massive march was headed in that direction.
Let me ask you about Friday, because we were talking after the order to disperse had been given. To the best of your knowledge, had they prevented, after that order, the approach of pedestrian traffic? Were people still allowed or not prevented to walk up and join the protest?
No, you were blocked off from walking. In fact, that's the same thing that happened yesterday. By the time the LAPD showed up, it was a bit ironic in my view because there was a bullhorn one of the protesters was using, urging people to go to City Hall, where a second protest, a much larger one, a rally, if you will, was supposed to be unfolding. That evolved into the massive march back in the direction of the federal building. But the police, the LA police, would not let people leave Alameda Street to go to City Hall and send us back in the direction of the federal building. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And it was at that moment that both sides of Alameda Street around the federal building saw a large police presence. They were starting to block the freeway entrances in anticipation of what ended up happening, protesters on the freeway. But again, my question, it just keeps going back to, is there not a police tactic that can be used to disrupt these unlawful assemblies before they grow out of hand? Because this is not a permitted protest. This is not a street that is supposed to be shut down. And that's true for all of these streets that are disrupted right now in downtown Los Angeles. At some point, why are they not stopping this in its tracks before it gains traction?
Well, I didn't get any success, but I texted Chief McDonald. I don't expect him to call me back, but I've been reaching out to various members of law enforcement who might be able to talk and kind of touch upon your concerns and mine, because I would ask the question, if we know that a curfew and or an order to disperse might encourage people to take their ass home, why would we not have that at this point? Because we know, and maybe the feeling is if they do that too soon, it encourages a clash, because then you're forcing people out as opposed to hoping they'll just leave on their own. I don't know if there's a good answer to this, but from the way you describe it, more and more people are coming, so them naturally dispersing is not going to happen. Am I right?
No, I think you're absolutely right, because every time I've seen the dispersal order issued, people have dispersed. I guess the majority, maybe even almost all, based on the volume of people. When they hear you're going to jail if you don't leave, they leave. But there is a certain class of agitator, and it's not necessarily the hardline immigration folks. This is what starts to dilute the message. There are activists in Los Angeles that are at the ready for protests like this. They live for this. They enjoy this. They're prepared for this in a way that you can't even really imagine. They've got equipment. They have tactics. They have practice. They know what they're doing. they're the ones that are going to be left behind. And so to your point, that may it's not like the LAPD doesn't know this, so that may discourage them. They might decide when the time is right to get rid of everybody else so that they can be prepared for the clash they know is ultimately going to come regardless.
When we talked on Friday, I could hear a lot of background noise and a sense of instructions over the megaphone telling people what to do, where to go. I'm not hearing that tonight. Is there any communication from what you can tell directly from police and protesters?
I think right now it seems like people are getting their bearings on where this thing is going to go tonight, because it's been a similar area but different locations. And so when you change the geography a bit, you've got different hiding places, you have different barriers that you have to avoid. And I think right now the communication has been clear that this is you're not supposed to be here. The police are standing here at the ready. Please go home. There are more people coming, so that message is not resonating. I haven't heard as many bullhorn messages as we heard. I mean, there was a helicopter yelling at us on Friday saying, get out of here. It's an unlawful assembly. But they said that for well over an hour. And at what point do these threats become real?
Well, I got to jump in there, because if the past is prologue and we haven't received the order to disperse, we haven't heard the bullhorn messages of leave or you will be arrested, we're behind schedule, are we not?
Exactly. That's exactly right. And you know now that this is going to be coming on the daily. So that's why I have the question about, one, why aren't these unlawful assemblies being stopped immediately? And two, why isn't there a ban on people being out after a certain time in certain parts of Los Angeles right now? I know that people don't like to hear that. I don't want a curfew. I live downtown. I don't want to feel confined to where we live. But if it's for the greater good, you got to do it. This neighborhood it's already a dirty, filthy, ransacked, graffitied neighborhood that is completely neglected by city government at all levels and all departments. And now pile on these protests and the massive mess and the increased graffiti that's going on. This isn't serving my neighborhood at all. I'd like people to leave, frankly.
Michael Monks, I hope you will be safe the rest of the evening. Can we possibly call upon you later in the evening to give us an update?
Absolutely. I'll be monitoring, and I think if things get too hairy, we need to send Mark Ronner out with the tear gas and get this thing cleaned up.
Been there, done that.
Hey, Mark, it's not too late. I mean, if you get a head start, you can get down there before they have the order to disperse.
I think I may hold the record for a journalist getting tear gassed and shot with rubber bullets. And we have to go to a break. But Michael, did you see over the weekend the footage of the reporter getting shot while she was
the one from Australia? And you know, Mo, when you and I were talking on Friday night, she was next to me for a good part of it, and she and I talked, and she was just nice as can be. I'm sorry I don't have her name handy, but we chatted a bit, and then I saw her in those videos from yesterday getting shot in the butt, and I just felt so bad.
That could have been you.
It could have been me.
Watch out for that. They're not lethal, but they sure do smart. I can tell you that from first-ass experience.
As they say, the night is young.
Yes.
So we hopefully you will not get shot, Michael Monks, but we will be in touch with you later on.
Hit me up.
KFI AM 640, I'm Mo Kelly, as we continue our coverage of the protests both in downtown and in Santa Ana as the sun goes.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
You know what's great about your investment account with the big guys? It's actually a time machine. Log in and zoom. Welcome back to 1999. It's time for an upgrade. At Public.com, you can invest in almost everything. Stocks, bonds, options, and more. You could even put your cash to work at an industry-leading 4.1% APY. Leave your clunky, outdated platform behind at Public.com. Go to Public.com and fund your account in 5 minutes or less. Paid for by Public Investing Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Full disclosures at Public.com/disclosures.
You don't know me yet, but I bet we have something in common. We all wish we were better functioning humans. Maybe figure out how to sleep better, have more meaningful relationships, cook more. That's search for practical knowledge. It's my job at the Washington Post. I host a podcast called Try This. Every episode is like an audio class, and we learn together. I'm Christina Quinn. Now you know me. Check out Try This wherever you're listening.
Goes down. We'll have more in just a moment.
You're listening to Later with Mo Kelly on demand from KFI AM 640.
KFI AM 640. It's Mo Kelly. We're live everywhere in the iHeartRadio app as we continue to follow the events downtown and also in Santa Ana. It's still relatively quiet. We know that there have been some announcements. We know that LAUSD is going to be in session tomorrow, and I talked about that at the top of the show. And I was trying to draw this distinction as far as what people call a riot, what people conceive as a riot. And I'm basically saying if you call it a riot now, you have nowhere to go if it should get actually to what we saw in 2020 or what we saw in 1992. And one of the reasons I brought that up was life for most Angelenos is not impacted right now. School is still open. Kids are going to school. People are going to work. There is no curfew. We talked about that as of yet. These are all levers which have not been pulled. Now, we can talk about the wisdom in doing it or not doing it. You heard me in my conversation with Michael Monks about whether a call for a curfew should already be in place to avoid possible future issues or problems, or whether this should already be in order to disperse. We have not heard that yet. I asked Mark Runner. He has not seen that yet. So we're going off the best information we have available. But LAUSD has said that school is going to be in session tomorrow. I assume that's not likely to change because they made an official statement on that. So as far as we know, that's not going to change. And Twala, let me just ask you as someone, as an administrator in a school environment, do you take anything from that? Do you make anything of that?
I take that to mean that this situation is relatively isolated. In addition to the announcement that LAUSD will be open, they have also said that all graduation ceremonies will commence as normal tomorrow and Wednesday. I believe Wednesday is the official last day. But for them to come out and say that all graduation ceremonies will happen, all commencements will happen, you will be safe, students will be safe. They are working with LA Sheriff and LAPD to ensure all of this. It means that from the city telling them everything is okay, we've got it covered in these areas here.
Something else I remember and also noticed back in 1992, all events were shut down. We did not have any sporting events. It wasn't like the Dodgers were playing. It wasn't like the Lakers were playing. When you had the riots of 1992, the city was completely shut down, top to bottom, no school, curfew in place, I think for 3 or 4 days. It was just a completely different situation. That is not to say that these protests have been completely peaceful. And that's why I want people to understand there is nuance here. There are levels to this as far as, yes, there has been violence, cannot be denied. Yes, there have been attacks on property and some looting, cannot be denied. But we're not looking at 2020. Not yet. Not yet, at least. We are not looking at what 1992 was. Not yet, at least. And the next couple of days, we'll see whether it's going to escalate or de-escalate. And that's why we are here, to give you the best information that we have as it happens and make sure that you are best informed moving forward. It's KFI AM 640. I'm Mo Kelly. We'll have more in just a moment. We're live everywhere on the iHeartRadio app.
KFI and KOST HD2, Los Angeles, Orange County. More stimulating talk.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
You know what's great about your investment account with the big guys? It's actually a time machine. Log in and zoom. Welcome back to 1999. It's time for an upgrade. At Public.com, you can invest in almost everything. Stocks, bonds, options, and more. You could even put your cash to work at an industry-leading 4.1% APY. Leave your clunky, outdated platform behind at Public.com. Go to Public.com and fund your account in 5 minutes or less. Paid for by Public Investing Inc., member FINRA and SIPC. Full disclosures at Public.com/disclosures.
We've all done it. You see a headline but don't have time to read the whole story, or there's so much news you're not sure what is worth your time. I'm Colby Ekowitz, co-host of Post Reports, the weekday afternoon podcast from The Washington Post. Post Reports brings you what's relevant and revealing. Breaking stories, politics, wellness, culture. Each episode goes beyond a headline for the context you need. Find Post Reports now, wherever you're listening.